Oh, brother, I haven't seen this for a while. I knew that it sucked, but I think it sucks even worse than I even remember. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you having already reviewed Poltergeist 1 and 2. I thought it only made sense to stop on by and review Poltergeist 3. And I think, unlike the second film, I don't think there's any extra bit of the title like, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. I think Poltergeist 3 is just this one sucks hard or whatever, but I think they tried that title, but that it wasn't good for marketing purposes. But this movie, I want to say, came out in 1988. It's funny because it's probably right around the time I was getting into Poltergeist 2 and or 1 and 2 rather. I can't remember the very first time I seen Poltergeist 3. I would imagine we would have rented it when it was new on home video. But I mean, it's such a absolutely abysmal and forgettable movie that every time I watch it, I completely forget about it or forget what happens, and so I can't even remember when I first saw it. But this movie, this is like, it's amazing that in just simply three films that a movie or franchise can go from the greatness. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Poltergeist films, but let's face it. I mean, the first one is relatively good. I gave it 3 out of 4 stars. I mean, I don't. I recognize the greatness there, even though I don't really respond to necessarily the film that wonderfully well or whatever. You can watch my review for what I think of the first film, but it's so crazy to see a franchise deteriorate in so quickly. And I guess that, from 1 to 2 it wasn't that bad, but from 2 to 3 it was just like this. It was just like, so 1's here, 2's like here, and then 3 just completely just nosedive straight to hell. So, with the exception of, I mean, of course, by this time, Heather O'Rourke, they know that she's the face of the franchise. Obviously, she's back. I can't even know. She's probably not even top billing, which is really funny. This movie stars, the top billings probably, shit, I can't remember his name right now, but Dallas from Alien, that guy. I can't remember his name right now, but also Nancy Allen. The casting in this movie is so freaking weird. It bugs me that I can't think of the guy, from the Dallas from Alien, his frickin' name. But anyway, he's probably the main billing. Nancy Allen. Luckily, we do have. I kind of remembered her name in the review of the second film. Now I forgot it all over again. But the shorter, clairvoyant woman with the glasses woman. She's, I think Heather O'Rourke and her are the only two original cast members from the first two films to return. And this is just abysmal, abysmal, abysmal movie. And it's just, it almost plays like, not almost, it plays like a movie that, and this is before I think they were really doing it, where a franchise started theatrically and then they segued into straight to video sequel distribution. It kind of, didn't that happen with like the dog films, like Beethoven? Some franchises started, like Tremors as well, started, theatrical movies, and then they just segued over time, like Darkman as well, Darkman 2 and 3 straight to video. This movie just totally feels like a straight to video Poltergeist sequel. It is like so hideous, and it's so funny how it reminds me of, if you couldn't, one would think if they couldn't see the credits for the director, they would think it was the same guy who directed Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. It just has that infantile, like, I like what I'm doing, but no one else is going to like what I'm doing kind of feel to it. And this guy, I don't know if he went to mirror school, like 4 years of mirror trickery college or whatever, but this guy, I don't know if that was his claim to fame or whatever, but, admittedly, this guy can do fun tricks with mirrors, and my only problem is, Jesus Christ, talk about overkill with the mirrors, Some of the first images that we see is Carol Ann in the bedroom with the mirrors, and, it right off the bat shows that this is going to be a movie full of mirrors, and if you don't love it, oh well. I think the only one who loves it is the guy who, the mirror. And I want to say, like, the director was also the one who was, like, credited for the mirror effects or whatever. So I think the mirror stuff was, like, his, baby or whatever. But, the mirror tricks were good or whatever. But I guess, maybe less is more. Isn't that even a line in this movie? Oh God, a very young, Laura Flynn Boyle's in this movie as well, which is interesting. But the premise of this movie is Carol Ann's parents just shipped Carol Ann to Chicago to live with the aunt for, can't remember if they say why or not, but to ship, in the middle, well, I don't know, the way they're, getting dressed at the beginning of the film, you feel like it's the middle of winter, but then they go outside and it's hotter. Oh, that's because it's cold in the building or some crap, I think. I don't know, but I don't have to say all these details. But this movie just revolves around Carol Ann in basically a high-rise. Oh my God, I'm just thinking of this movie in my mind, and it's just so pathetic. And basically, she just, they carry on the bad guy, or the what's the word? I can't remember the word right now. The antagonist from the second film of like the preacher. Obviously, I would imagine it's a completely different guy as the role with just scary makeup on or whatever. But this movie very uncreatively carries on the antagonist of the preacher guy, just tormenting Carol Ann or whatever. And what's interesting about this movie, and in one hand I kind of give it props, but in the other hand it's kind of like, how I talked about the first film having, like, if you saw my Poltergeist 2 review, I talked about having really state-of-the-art optical, visual, not only just optical and visual effects, but just state-of-the-art like effects on all fronts, but in particular optical and visual effects. Like the second one, it wasn't so much about optical and visual effects. This one is, I don't think there's a single optical shot of any kind of visual effects, which, by this time they're like, okay, I don't know if a completely different bunch of producers are involved in 3, or some people that did 2 are involved in 3. It doesn't feel like anyone that was involved with any of the first 2 had any involvement in this. It's like they handed the franchise over to like a middle schooler or high schooler at best, and just said, here, do your best, and this is what we get, Poltergeist 3. But one thing that is interesting is that, the first film in particular was heavy on the visual effects and, cinema trickery. Second movie not so much because of probably limited budget. But this movie is just like probably super limited budget. It plays like a Full Moon, like if Full Moon got its hold on, or hands on, like if Charles Band got his hands on the Poltergeist franchise, it kind of feels like, honestly, come to think of it, I think maybe they'd even be able to do something better than this film. But even though I just revisited this, like I say, there's several films that are mind wipes, and this is one of them, because like nothing goes on. But so Carol Ann's living, briefly with the, I think the Nancy Allen is the aunt, and then the Dallas from Alien is like, the older new husband or whatever. And I mean, Carol Ann's living in this apartment, and her bedroom is, mirrors. So, the mirrors gimmick is kind of cool, whatever. Not really. I mean, you get sick of it by the time the movie's over, that's for damn sure. But obviously, scary preacher guy, who's obviously some other guy wearing a Halloween mask, is back and tormenting her. And I can't even remember, every time that, the whole gimmick is throughout the course of the 3 films is, every time they have interaction with Carol Ann, it just, touches their undead, or their dead souls in a way that so much that they just need more Carol Ann juice, not in that way, but spiritual. They just need more interaction with Carol Ann, because they make them, they just have, she's got such a strong life force that they just like her presence, and or whatever, they want to kidnap her and make just bathe in her aura of amazingness or whatever. So I mean, I don't think there's really any more to this movie than that. Tom Skerritt, that's the actor's name, who plays Dallas in Alien. I gotta tell you, I don't know, I mean, if I can really describe what happens in this movie, because nothing really does happen in this movie, and if it does, it involves mirrors. But really a stinker. I can really say it's really a stinker. And I don't know if I can really say much more than that. I really can't. It's basically just 90 minutes of put whatever on screen. The first, the first two films have enough of a reputation that maybe we can make some money just doing a third film. Doesn't matter what the hell happens in it because the tickets are already paid for and it's already, it's just it's very rare, and one might compare like the RoboCop trilogy to this. I mean, RoboCop 3 is so much better of a movie than Poltergeist 3. I was just trying to think of other other franchises that only made it to a third film that weren't like a planned trilogy. RoboCop comes to mind. I can't remember. I mean, Darkman, but I mean that doesn't really count because the second two films are straight to video. So in regards to like a three film trilogy, or not, well, franchise that all three movies were in the theater. Yeah, I mean this is just one of the worst part threes you can ever hope to see, and it's no wonder they didn't make any more. Of course, Heather O'Rourke was the face of the franchise, and she was purported to have departed not long after this movie was completed, which doesn't help, but it does, it does make me interested in of course seeing the remake, and I have it, but I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably watch it to review it, but I don't think I can really say much more about Poltergeist 3. I don't know if there's anything good about this, enough to, I guess I can go as high as, we'll go a half of 1 star out of 4 stars, and that's only for, I guess, I don't know what, the mirror trickery before it got really repetitive and annoying. Like some of the mirror trickery was cool. And they did like live on-set gags versus optical on-set gags, probably because there was no money for it. But I think that the guy who was the director probably was, I don't know, who knows, but maybe he was a magician or something. I think he was more interested in doing stuff live, which is admirable. Pull stuff off live. It kind of gives the movie a different feel. But yeah, that'll be my star rating for this movie. Completely abysmal, because I remember it sucking. But, I watched the first film, then it made me want to do the second, and then I'm like, okay, well, we got to do the third. And I knew it sucked, but holy crap. I mean, I can't believe it sucks as much as it sucks. So, if you haven't seen Poltergeist 3, you're definitely not missing out on anything. You're probably actually interested to see how bad it can suck, though. So maybe you will see it to see its suckery. But I'm pretty sure, as I said, Scream Factory put out Blu-rays of 2 and 3. As I already said in my Poltergeist 2 review, I sure don't need Blu-rays of 2 or 3, because for me, pretty much the first film is the only one that exists, I guess, for the most part. I guess that'll do it for my review of Poltergeist 3. I'm actually just finding myself just getting, I don't know, depressed thinking about the movie, so I think we'll leave it there. One of the most unrecommended movies I can think of right now. Poltergeist 3. So if you haven't seen it, please don't, and if you have, I'm sorry. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.